What is this now? Hey, right, something. Right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dr. Fundi Lenyati. I'm the host on this channel. Welcome to you all. The time is just 1 minute past 4. So as the host, I have to welcome everybody. Thank you for choosing to be with us this afternoon. My task as a host is a very, very easy one. My task is just to welcome you officially. I've got 2 people who will be working with me. Mr. Walid Fraser and also Ms. Sesmani. They will be the co-moderators who will help to drive the program with me. I see Mr. Fraser has already just come in. Welcome, Mr. Fraser, and welcome to all of you panelists, and also to everyone who has joined us at home, either joining us via Zoom or following us on the various social media platforms. Thank you for choosing to be with us. Now, today, just to give a context to why we have this conversation today. Walid can't hear. All right. On my side, everything is fine. So I think he may need to.
Good afternoon, Dr. Nyati, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Sorry,
right.
I'm experiencing some European turbulence. Sorry, my apologies.
All right.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yes. Good afternoon, Yonela.
Hi, everyone. Okay, so I'm going to try share something now.
Okay. All right. But before you do that, I'll tell you when to share that, Yonela. All
okay.
Right. All right. So I'm just welcoming the people at this moment and just giving a context to why we are here today. All right. So I'm saying we all know that the month of June in South Africa is actually a month where we actually focus on matters that have to do with young people in our country. We know that 45 years ago, students in Soweto, they protested against the use of Afrikaans as a medium of instruction. And that actually created a big situation where it was not only about education, but it was a protest and a bigger fight against many other things associated with the apartheid brutality. So the month of June, therefore, is a month where we remember the young people of 1976. But also, during the same month, we can't only just look backwards. We also have to say, young people today, what are their challenges? What are the things that are making it difficult for them to realize their dreams? And what is it that can be done to help them solve those dreams? So that's the one reason for this conversation, is to make sure that there is a platform for young people, and I'm saying under 35s, to be able to have a platform to communicate, to share, to share their ideas, and for us as the older people, to see how we can be part of a solution to their challenges. But also today is what we call Freedom Charter Day. That is 66 years since that meeting or gathering of people in Kliptown, where they came up with minimum requirements in terms of what they think the South Africa of the future should be. So we're celebrating the Youth Month through this conversation, but we're also celebrating the 66 years of the Freedom Charter and looking at what of those things actually has been realized and what of those things has not been realized. We used to say, the doors of learning and culture should be open to all. Are they? you know. So there are many things that we need to talk about today, but with those words, I just wanted to contextualize this meeting and say to everybody, welcome. Let's have a fruitful conversation. It's only 2 hours that we have, so we need to manage time very tightly. Some of the panelists are only available for the first hour, and then after that, they will have to go to other engagements. So at this point, I just want to then introduce the two people who are the co-moderators. The first one is Walid Fraser. Walid, can you come out? Well, not come out, but switch on your camera so that people can see you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Is everybody able to hear and see me?
Yeah, all right. Thank you, Walid. Walid is a young person under the age of 35. He's a qualified chartered accountant, originally from El Dorado Park here in Johannesburg. I attended a function, well, not a function, but a session with him, what we call Speaker Wednesdays, the Speaker of the City of Joburg. He was one of the people who were invited there because he is a graduate of the Youth Council of the City of Joburg, and that's where he learned some of his youth leadership skills. So he's based in Europe now as a group auditor, or was it internal auditor or something like that? He will tell us what he does, but he is a qualified chartered accountant, and he will be helping us to drive this conversation. We also have Ms. Sesmane Sibabalwe. That's the name. Sibabalwe means we are blessed. Sesman, she is a group CEO of Unorthodox group that is into PR and sports management. So those are the two people who will help me to navigate and drive this conversation. And so I just thought, let me introduce them so that they are free to now join me. Ms. Mandi, can you share that draft program so that then everybody can see the program?
Okay, hello everyone. Let me just come on to this. Sorry, just give me a second.
Right, we need to, Noamisa, can you assist?
Okay, here we go. Sorry, got a doc.
You got it? All right, can you share?
Okay, can everyone see my screen?
We can't see anything as yet.
Oh, sorry, you need to enable me to share things.
All right, okay, we've enabled you. Yeah.
Okay. Share. Okay. Hi, everyone. Okay, sorry, this is page 2 of it. Okay, so this is the order of proceedings for today. Doc has done a welcome speech, and now we're just going to contextualize the purpose of the dialogue, which we have actually, and the introduction of moderators. And then now we move on to the self-intros by each panelist. Please, can everyone stick to 2 minutes just so that we allow everyone the opportunity to speak. And these are the things we'd like to hear about you, just who you are, what you do currently, and what your future aspirations are, and what do you think is a major challenge to the realization of your aspirations or dreams. And then this is the keynote address, which is going to be done by Mr. Simpiwe Somdiala, sorry. And then unlocking potential, possible solutions. And then the panelists will have a Q&A towards the end. And then we'll have substance use and abuse, a conversation about that which can sabotage our dreams, and the executive summary of outcomes and thoughts and ideas. And then we've got the vote of thanks, and then we're done.
All right. Okay, so I think I want to hand over. I think you must leave the, I think the page one, but or you can just call people's names so that we can see them on the their faces.
Okay.
Right. So
Can you still see?
we still see the program.
Okay. So you just want me to call out the people that
I've already introduced Mr. Fraser and Ms. Sessman, who are supposed to then, take over and help drive the program. But because you have got the summarized, bios of the people, so maybe then, they will just pick a person and then you can just quickly share. In fact, allow the people to share, to introduce themselves.
Okay, yes, that's perfect. I can call out the names or the host can.
Yeah. Okay, let's go ahead.
Okay, so we have Simlindile Abongile Bantom. Please, can you tell us a bit about yourself and then we can continue?
Okay, hi everyone. Name Simlindile Bantom, born in Premium Tata. Currently a PhD student at UCT, working for FMP as a senior UX manager. So my dream is to become one day a chief design officer. What I'd like to see in our country, particularly in design, we've got a few designers. So basically, what I do for a living is to make technology easy for people to use. But my interest is in rural development, taking out young boys and then teaching them design. It's one of the issues that we face. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Next would be Kabelo Maka.
Hi everyone, my name is Kabelo Maka. I go by Kablo on the internet and my animation students usually call me Miss K. I'm the creative director and co-founder of Kablo Studios, which is an animation and illustration studio based in Johannesburg, South Africa. And we do short films, we do medical animation, and we also do animated series. And I guess my aspiration is to be a game changer in the animation industry and to own the whole value chain. And I guess one of the challenges of that is, just being a young person and not having a template and having to do this on your own without a reference. So that's me. Thank you.
But you have mommy to help you as the co-founder.
Yeah, I run the business with my mother, by the way. She does business development and I do the creative side. She's an actual medical doctor, so there's that.
Okay, thank you, Kabelo. Next we have Noktula Shange.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. I go by Noktula Shange. I was born and bred at Umlazi. My aspiration is to be a businesswoman one day. I'm currently a full-time business and economics student, but also I work for Zayo, which is a coding company, as a junior business analyst, And some of the challenging, I think, that are facing young people, and especially the journey that I want to go to, is lack of role models, about women into leadership. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Noktula. Next we have Zizipo Nokwaza.
Good evening, my colleagues. Can you hear me, right?
We can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I did unmute myself. Good evening, colleagues. My name is Zizipo Nokwaza. I am from Tabankulu, a very small town in Eastern Cape. I am the founder and the director of the two companies which specializes. The first one is Premium Minds, and the other one is Stories Enterprise. The Premium Minds specializes on ICT, marketing, advertising, corporate branding, as well as professional business advisory services and events management. Stories Enterprise specializes in construction and hiring, the servicing of the yellow machines. I'm based in Coxhead, KwaZulu-Natal. Our offices is in Coxhead as a headquarters. So that's me. Thank you. Thank you for being invited in this rich dialogue today. I thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Zizipo. Tina
I'm
Makubela.
sorry about the light. My office is in a dark place. Coxhead is too cold, so my light is not sufficient. I'm in the building that is on the top, so I'm not dark that much. So I'm sorry about the light.
That's okay. Tina Makubela.
She's not here.
Okay. Then it's Babalwe Sesman.
Can you guys hear or see me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay, cool. Because I didn't see my video popping up. I think the doctor introduced me earlier as one of the co-moderators, but I'll go with it. My name is Sibabalwe Sesmani. I'm the group CEO of Unorthodox Group, which is the mother company of Unorthodox PR, where we specialize in public relations, which is placing our clients directly in front of their audience. We've got presence in SADC, which is Southern Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, UK, and the US. And then our subsidiary, our second subsidiary, is Unorthodox Sport, where we basically manage professional athletes. So from endorsements to exposing them to media. But then what we do that's a bit different from other sports management agencies is that we start planning for their investment now, so that when they retire, they have something to retire to that we help them build now. So I would say, oh yes, my biggest challenge is just the lack of opportunities given to young people in different leadership positions. So whether it's corporate, whether it's entrepreneurship, and also whether it's civil society and just the political landscape.
Okay, thank you so much, Babal. Next is Thandi Wemkun.
Hi, everybody. I don't know if you could see me, okay, but I'm sure you can hear me. I am Thandi Wemkunu. I am based at Amahlongwa. This is 45 minutes from Durban. I am a chemical engineer and as well as a farmer. I am doing a master's degree in chemical engineering with CSIR and UKZN. The reason I'm doing much of farming, as much as I love organic food, but it's more of it's the beginning of the supply chain, as I love farming as well as the waste management. So my challenges and future aspirations, I will just start with the future aspirations. I would love to embark on waste management. There's very little that is being done in South Africa and Africa as in general regarding the waste management. So that's what I would like to embark on. And we have, hello?
We can hear you.
The current challenges that we are facing. Oh, okay. The current challenges that we are facing is the lack of political will in supporting young people to enter the space of energy and waste management. And also, we have a problem in bridging the gap from the lab scale that we are used to in the university, as well as having a pilot plant that is going to benefit the community. So we need to have an agency in government that will enable us to move faster from the lab scale to the pilot scale, because at the moment we don't have investors coming into that space. So I'm using funding, the farming, to raise finance so that I'm able to move faster to having a pilot plant also, which is going to happen in the rural area. So thank you very much. That's Tim Kono.
Thank you, Thandiwe. Next is Bulelani Mabanga.
Everyone, my name is Bulelani Mabanga. I am currently a LLB student at WITS, and I'm an aspiring attorney, but I have two businesses at the moment. My first business is called Bello Hair Care and Weaves, and we sell hair. And then my second business, it's called Ellipsis. It first started as a property facilities management company, but we then pivoted into the insurance industry. We are currently trying to build a blockchain-powered mutual assurance company that will lower the price of traditional insurance premiums so that it appeals more to the lower to middle income bracket. I would say that my aspirations for the future, I definitely want to expand into African markets because the penetration rate in insurance is incredibly low. And one of the things that's most dear to my heart is to use technology, innovation, and also empathy in order to solve the complex problems that we are facing right now in Africa. And in addition to this, I really want to use my coming success to bring forth the success of others. I would say right now that the most challenges that I'm facing right now, it's the lack of urgency and the lack of efficacy when it comes to institutional support structures, especially for women in the STEM industries. Thank you.
Thank you, Bulelani. Lebona Mohale.
Thank you, Ausi. My name is Lebona Mohale. I am currently a student at the University of the Free State, wherein I'm studying my LLB degree and I'm specializing in environmental law, which is what I also in, wherein I was dissecting the essence of sustainable development as enshrined by our constitution. But besides that, I'm working with a university in the UK, Complex University, wherein we are looking to reduce the global carbon emissions by 1 billion tons in a year. I've just coached the first team in South Africa that is based in the Free State province, and we are going on to different levels of the challenge that has been given by the university. Other than that, I own a company called Embreeds, wherein we facilitate literature and we sell books and reading material around the disconnected communities to counter the effects of alcohol and, you know, the debilitating state of drugs in the dislocated communities. I'm also looking, I was also looking to run a winter school program, just disturbed by the current third wave that we're in. And the winter school program is run in primary schools, wherein we offer lessons that are not in the orthodox curriculum that are provided by schools. We provide chess lessons, we provide coding lessons, we provide animal welfare lessons, or we also provide sustainable agricultural living. And in the future, we hope to include mixed martial arts into the program. So that's me in a nutshell.
Thank you, Lebona. Next is Vuyo Pagade.
Hi, everyone. My name is Vuyo Pagade. I often go by the fact that I work for the internet. I have two companies in the tech space where one is called Funda. We're looking to simplify student funding and make it much more accessible to a wider audience throughout Africa by simplifying the application process. But we've also expanded beyond that, given the current crisis of unemployment, and looking to actually expand into student jobs, entry-level jobs, and making them more easier to apply to. My second hat is the founder and CEO of Pavunko Tech, where essentially we help other partners of ours build technologies, also further invest our time and resources that we can into, you know, upcoming startups that we can help, you know, build up the same way we have. So our future aspirations, I think our general trend is to always help build technology that builds people and build businesses that build people. That's always been something that's very dear to my heart, as well as youth development in general. And a major challenge, I think, as what Bulelani touched on, is the urgency that comes from, you know, those that have the resources and the power, from the political will, as well as the financial resources to assist the youth agenda in really building our nation forward. So I think if we could find partners, not only strategic partners from the older generation, guidance in our space, but also being able to be young Black people that take up space in ours and get support from the general you know, public, that's just something that we would definitely have to help us push forward.
Okay, thank you, Vuyo. I just want to quickly introduce myself because you're probably wondering why I'm speaking. My name is Yonela Mngandi. I'm sorry, I cannot switch my camera on. My Wi-Fi has been up and down where I live, and I just don't want to test it by overweighting the internet. I work for Dr. Fundi. I study digital marketing at Vega, and I am currently building myself a client base to be able to work as a freelancer in the digital creation space. My future aspirations, I'd say that for myself, it's just about being able to create websites and manage social media for up and coming companies. And my major challenges at the moment, I think that it's tough to do something that not many people have done. I have no one to really look to for guidance, really. And I think every day I figure it out myself, and I think I'm wrong, and then, you know, all that stuff. So I think, yeah, I think there's just I don't have leaders to look towards in the space, but I look forward to being someone else's leader at some point, being able to share with younger people. So thank you.
All right. I think I want to then hand over to the two co-moderators. But I think what we need to do now, I had asked somebody who has done quite a number of things, Mr. Simpiwe. Oh yeah, Vumezita Ngcobo has not been introduced. Please, Yonela, please introduce Mr. Vumezita Ngcobo. He's one very interesting people that is part of our panel.
So sorry, Vumezita, please, you can have the floor to introduce yourself.
Okay.
Well, greetings everyone. I'm sure you can see that my video is blurry, so I've got renovation all over the house, so that's why my mic, I think most of the time, will be mute. My name is Vumezita or Sikumbuzo Ngcobo. I'm based in Devon, KZN, but obviously one works, you know, in the entire country. I'm a director in a company called Sikumbuzo M&A R&D General Consultancy, where we focus on M&As, which are mergers and acquisition. We consult, and we also do R&D, which is research and development in different projects, different program, or different products. I'm also a director in a company called EP4 Logistics, which is basically your order fulfillment, small value chain. So we do sourcing, handling, and also distribution. But currently we are more active in the transportation part of the business, where we do concrete mix supply, where we do general distribution, you know. Also we are partly active in sourcing, because we've got a sugar brand where we source sugar from Brazil and distribute accordingly in different clientele. I'm also a director of a company called EP7 Security, you know, where we provide mostly static guarding. We currently within KZN, you know. Yeah. One is passionate about sharing. I'm solution oriented, so I'm passionate about sharing. I mean, with sharing ideas with young people, and obviously we've got quite a number of challenges in our country. So one cannot sleep and say, you know what, because I've got my parts figured, I cannot then care about, you know, what happened to others. So one is focusing on being selfless, as Dr. Monroe has said, that you rather die empty, you know. So one is really trying to play the one's part in sharing information and empowering others. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Doc, I think our next.
All right. Thank you very much. I know now I'm actually getting into the space of the moderators. Apologies for that. I had asked Mr. Simpiwe Somjala, who is somebody who is on the other side of 35. He's not on the, he's closer to the age, if not on the age that was announced yesterday that they qualify for vaccines. So he should be in the late 40s or at least early 50s. So yeah, Mr. Somjala is somebody who has been an entrepreneur, who's been also, you know, in the corporate space. He now is doing a lot of work in the agri sector, and I thought just to kickstart this discussion, we could have him just say something for about 10 minutes or so, so that we can be able to accommodate somebody from NSFAS who has to go at 5 o'clock. So let me hand over to Mr. Somtyala. He can introduce himself. I know he so I think he knows how to introduce himself in an efficient manner. So Mr. Somtyala, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Doc, and thank you for the introduction, and good seeing you, colleagues. And I'll take you just quickly through a 30-year journey. And that 30-year journey, I started working as a development financier and as well as a business advisor. And that was about 30 years ago. Throughout my work as a financier and an advisor, I've worked with quite a number of enterprises in the retail, manufacturing, agriculture, and generally everything that you can think of in our subsectors. And what I want to share are the experiences throughout that journey and what we have learned. I also want to talk briefly about what I see as the drivers of change. When we were younger, we were energetic, and 30 years then is different to what South Africa is today. One of the things that we used to do when we were funding enterprises is ask them questions so that they fit our profile in terms of what is it that we were looking for. But throughout this journey, I realized that actually there are two questions that you need to ask. One, understand who the jockey is, the entrepreneur. And I'll talk a lot about why that is important. And the second one, understand better who the customer is. Those two things, for me, determines the next question, which is an easier one to navigate. You know, the funding you need, where the business is located, blah, 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 blah. So my lesson throughout the 30 years is that if as a jockey, you're not strong enough, you don't have the required skills, you don't have the passion, and you don't understand the customer, the person that you're going to service, whether you're an entrepreneur running your own business or an entrepreneur working in a company, forget success. That's a lesson. And I've experienced business people getting loans. We would fund them. 3 years down the line, 2 years down the line, they've folded, they've closed shop for one reason or the other. And I've experienced business people who, when they face challenges and close the business, actually, literally saying, I quit this one, moving on to the next and trying again. But I've also experienced people who start a business and go back to employment for one reason or the other, either lack of experience or the nature of the client they wanted to serve has changed. But I've also experienced those that have failed literally because they thought to run a business is about making money. Yes, it is, but it is about servicing the client, and in the process, you make money. And that's been my journey. And one lesson also, I mean, as a funder, and I'm sure all funders in the room, is there's nothing as satisfying as financing a business that succeeds. When you see, and I've seen many, of the guys you provided loans to or funding to or advice to now becoming millionaires, you get joy. I do not believe that there's a funder that is interested in not funding you. They're interested in financing you. But of course, there are always problems. And that's also has been a lesson that I've learned. More often, and this is where change needs still to happen, more often funders, and especially an experienced one, look at the products that they have than looking at the client that potentially can grow the business. What do I mean by that? It's not always about your balance sheet that matters, like more often what banks look at. It's about understanding the business, understanding that client that this business will finance. And I've seen quite a lot of DFIs that have changed, and the way they finance enterprises is more looking and understanding better that business. And the lesson for me is that until the funding models change to really understand that, we're not going to find quite a lot of young people. And that's where the challenge is, because they don't have the balance sheet and collateral to back them. But those funders that understand the importance of the jockey and the customer always provide funding to even young people. I think the most important thing for me, which is a lesson that I also learned, is when I stopped being a funder and now started a business, and I was sitting on the other side. And interestingly, you now go and look for funding and you ask all sorts of questions. And I realized that it's quite an interesting one, because you ask the very questions that you were asking people, and now you're on the other side. And that has shaped for me how I think about business and what I see as, this change going forward. And as a business person, I think key, it's about having the passion in what you do and living that passion. And also knowing that you're not always going to succeed. There will be instances where you fail, but you realize that if I stop what I'm trying to do, I will not succeed, I will not go anywhere. Rather, I continue that journey. And just talking about that 30 years for me has taught me resilience and has taught me to appreciate that wherever you are, whoever you are, you can only move from where you are. So it's important to always understand who you are, where you are. And if you don't, chances are you will either be depressed or you will not succeed. So understanding where you are matters. But quickly, I just want to talk about what I see as the drivers of change and what I believe will shape the future. And this is from my own personal experience, but also from what I've seen happening in the industry where I operate. I think the first one and the most important one is the customer. The customer is redefining how we do business. The customer is changing our business models. And it's always been like that, but now that change is too fast. If you in agriculture and you think that customer will wait for you until you harvest, it's not going to happen. That customer now can make that order from wherever she is, and those that are ready will deliver. So this future we talk about, whether you want to start a business or you in a business, the more you understand that customer, those preferences that that customer has, the better the offering you will have as you innovate. The second important driver of change, all of us, I think some of us have talked about, and it was not there 30 years ago, and is quite evident today, technology and digitalization. I think any business that's not thinking about technology or digitalization is dead before it starts. In the agri space, we talk about drones, and not only are we talking about drones, we also are talking about how do we take this produce to the market? Because if you think about it, it's no longer the retailer that's taking produce to the end consumer at home. It's also driven through technology. So if you don't understand that dynamic, you're likely to struggle. So get to understand what technology and how it shapes your business. And the third one are skills. Skills and the ability to adapt is important. I think in the past and what we've experienced is that entrepreneurs that are continuously innovating and learning and improving their own skills tend to succeed. So are those that are in employment. And it's good to see young people always thinking about that today, because that's always going to shape the future and much more today. And the fourth one is cost leadership. I want to make this very point very clear. I'm not talking about succeeding in your business because you manage to reduce your cost. In any business today, if you are not a cost leader, given the change that's taking place, chances are you will struggle. You need to learn how to do more with less, how to be more efficient, and that's gonna make your business improve. And of course, climate change is changing everything. I'm not going to talk about that. The last point, which I believe is as important as all of them, relationships and networks. This is one thing that I've seen those that were funded and even colleagues that are in businesses today succeeding or failing. You need to think about who is in my network, not in the context of what we see in South Africa, the corruption and everything. You need to define what that inner circle offers you and you offer, because it's a two-way traffic. Because we learn a lot from the people who are closer to us, the people we always work with, and these are the people that will help us either grow or not. So in the world of technology and this, change, which is very fast, those relationships will matter, the inner core, what is it? But continuously also expand that network. Or continuously look at who else can I be part of, or which network can I be part of, that inner circle. Because the world today is about knowledge, and it's really different from what it was 30 years ago. So, Doc, I think for me, these are the things that I wanted to share with young people. And I wanted to say, you living in a world that's changing faster than all of us ever thought. But what's important is that understanding where you are and being consistent in what you're trying to achieve, and knowing that at some point you will fail, you already have started a successful journey. I started my career and I thought I will do a lot of things as an economist and did my BCom and all sorts of studies. But where I am now, I'm more passionate about agriculture. I know that it's going to shape the future and everybody will want food in the future. But the way that customer will access food is going to be different 30 years from now. So it's important to always learn, always want to know more, better ways of doing business, and work closely with the people who've been there and expand your inner circle. Those are the words that I wanted to share. And I wish people all the best. And I must say, I'm equally as young as you are. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Somjala. We were trying to get hold of Mr. Mamabulo from SIFA. He had some technology issues. So I've just sent him the webinar ID and the passcode so that he can be able to come in and then just share what he needs to share, because at 5, he's supposed to be out of here so that we can then, all right, Mr. Don Mashele has just raised a hand.
Thanks, Doc Facilitators. I thought you were saying SIFA, but I'm from SIFA. So I wanted to check exactly if you're looking for me. Or?
No, it was more the NS first one, because that's the one 5 o'clock challenge.
Okay.
Right. So, but he is not in at this moment because I wanted then to leave the bulk of the second half so that we can have, interactive discussions, raised by, the very different people that we have. So I'm just trying to see if he's already in so that we can then ask him to come in. Right, because I'm just struggling to get hold of him on this thing. All right, let's do it this way. Maybe rather than us wasting time, let's finish with the speeches. So maybe Sifa, come in, and then just take us through about where do you guys come in terms of assisting young businesses. Because I know that you've got a ceiling in terms of how much you can fund, and then beyond that, it's another funding agency and all of that. Maybe just take us through that. And then when the gentleman, Mr. Mamabulo from NSFAS comes in, then we will accommodate him so that we then have time for engagements thereafter.
Thank you, Doc, and good afternoon, facilitators and fellow panelists, young people on the platform. Before I proceed with what SIFA is doing, what we do as an agency, I just want to build from what Mr. Somjala has said. I mean, because that was very, very profound. And I'm glad that he mentioned that it's coming from a DFI space. So the experience that he has shared as a practitioner in the space and now as an entrepreneur, I thought I should just comment on those. So one of the things that he mentioned is that DFIs now development funding institutions. We are more likely looking at the businesses that we fund rather than looking at the suite of programs or products that we have on the shelves. We still have that because you need to package something within certain constraints. However, it's very much important that to look at the business that you are funding as the first thing that you want to solution for. So one of the things that really as young entrepreneurs, I would like to share out there is to say, when you approach us as a lender, or you're looking for funding or whatever the case is, it's crucial, very crucial that in your business case, in your proposal, you need to then indicate what problem are you solving. You know, he spoke about an entrepreneur, he spoke about the customer. Now, between the two, for you to gel, the question now is, rather than say, I'm selling this commodity, I'm providing this service, you know, ask yourself the question, what problem are you solving for the community? By extension, your customer. Now, once you have identified that and you've got a solution, and you can commercialize the solution, you know, by implication, you've got a very, very sustainable business. You know, it's one thing to say that I sell tomatoes or I sell jewelry, whatever the case is. That is defining your business by a product. But I'm saying and challenging to say, define your business by the solution that you're providing. So that is the one part. The other area that we do check, he mentioned it as well, is the issue of passion. You know, there is what is called a sweet spot where your passion, what you love doing, meets the other area, which is your talent. Because there are three things really that must define that sweet spot. One is the passion. Number two is the talent. The crucial one is the business model. Now, what it means is that obviously you need to be passionate about the things that you do. Making money will follow, will come at some point. I think one of the entrepreneurs, when they introduced themselves, they did mention that. At some point, making money will come. But you need to be passionate. You need to wake up in the morning and say, you know, what I'm doing doesn't feel like a job, doesn't feel like it's like a career. It's a passion. I'm passionate about this. The other thing is the talent. You need to be having a God-given talent to live your passion. Last but not least, you must develop a business model, because a business model is where your customers are willing to pay you for the value that you provide. So as development funding institutions, these are some of the things, key questions that we ask before we go to the issue of financials, you know, the normal questions that will follow to package a proposal or to package a solution for funding. In your business case, I think those are the key things that you need to be talking about. The other thing that I need to share is, as a SEFA, Small Enterprise Finance Agency, we've got what we call priority target groups. Now, priority target groups are the groups that we want to support, the groups that were previously marginalized. And when we provide the funding that we provide, we prioritize this group. Now, youth or young people is one of those. And I must be honest that year in and year out, we struggle to meet that target to fund young people. Now, the question will be, why do we struggle? And for me, I think after these 2 hours, we need to come up with some form of a solution to then say, because remember now, as a SEFA, we provide one part of solving the problem, which is finance. Now, to get young people to do what they have to do in the space of entrepreneurship, it takes more than funding. So we therefore need to then say, do we have in the country a proper ecosystem where other players or other strategic partners that are geared towards supporting young people are not operating in silos? So that, to me, if we can come up with something like that, that says we need to build a model where we can have young people being driven by a common agenda, and we know exactly that the likes of SEFA, the likes of other organizations that provide their different solutions to solve and support young people, we break those silos and are able to operate as a unit. I think once we can do that, in my view, we will have achieved a lot this evening. So SEFA, Small Enterprise Finance Agency, we are an implementing agency of the Department of Small Business Development. Under the department, you've got 2 agencies, ourselves, SEFA. You've got our sister organization called Small Enterprise Development Agency. Small Enterprise Development Agency provides non-financial support where they provide business development support, which is training, anything non-financial. CEDA will provide that solution, and the CIFA will provide the funding. Now, the funding that we provide, it's limited, as Doc was saying. We have a threshold of the maximum of 15 million rand. So we provide funding to businesses. You want to start a business, you want to expand an existing business, or you want to acquire a business, you want to purchase a business. We're able to support you in those various phases of business, of your enterprise journey. Now, like I said, we provide the maximum of 15 million rand. And the reason we exist is to deal with what we call market failures. Market failures is where we are saying there are entrepreneurs out there who have got potential solutions that can solve the problem that we have in this country, amongst others, with the problem of unemployment. So if you're saying that you've got entrepreneurs who can live their dream, do what they have to do in the process, create jobs, that is the main thing that we exist as an organization, as a DFI. So we then identified and say, position ourselves to say, what are the things where your normal conventional credit lenders are not able to play in certain spaces? You know, it's very difficult. I think one of the comments earlier today, someone was saying it's difficult for young people to get funding if you don't have a balance sheet. Now, one of the things that we don't require as a CIFA is to have a strong balance sheet. But one of the things that we'll require is then to say you need to give us a business case that is sustainable, that can say if we invest in your business, we are able then to gain with you and be successful, to then say at the end of the day, we're able to point and say we have funded this type of business and it's been successful. You've created so many millionaires, you've created so many entrepreneurs in the space of the youth generation. And in that, you know, you've taken entrepreneurship as a journey and in the process creating employment. So we can support young people, but like I was saying, that we don't ask for collateral. We don't ask for anything to say what is your skin in the game by way of capital injection. But what we are saying is that when you make a proposal, it must be a proposal that makes commercial sense. And if you take the lessons, the experience that Mr. Nomchara was saying, and what I was also saying, to say when you package your funding proposal, you know, be thinking in terms of you as an entrepreneur, be thinking in terms of your customer, be thinking in terms of your business 30 years from now, to say what kind of a business, what kind of the environment will be having 30 years from now. Because, you know, as young people, as we have seen, I mean, the issues around COVID, amongst other things, the world changes very, very fast. So I think let me then stop there. Most of the things, because I can't share the whole in terms of how we do this, etc., etc. You can, before I conclude, Doc, let me then also say, we've got an online application portal. So if you are saying you are not so sure if CIFA can fund you, you've got this kind of business, etc., etc., we have got an online pre-screening portal. So you can visit our website, it takes about 5 to 10 minutes. The portal will ask you questions, as and when you respond to those questions, at the end of the day, it will then be able to tell you if you are eligible to apply for CIFA funding. Because if I can talk about the criteria, things we do, the things that we don't have, I don't think we've got the time this evening to do that. But if you visit our website, it will be able to pre-screen you and be able to say you are eligible to apply for CIFA funding, and you can go ahead and apply. If for any other reason you are not eligible to apply, the portal is built with an understanding of what other lenders have got there out there in the country. So it's got other lenders, your commercial banks, variety of lenders that we've got in the SME financing space in South Africa. So it won't say CIFA can't assist you and leave you frustrated like that. What it will do, it will give you options in terms of what potential other lenders can assist you. So for instance, I said our maximum is 15 million rand. If for whatever reason you're saying I'm looking for 20 million rand, it will then say CFA threshold is 15. However, you can approach the likes of the IDC, the likes of Standard Bank or any other lender. So it's a portal that I'll encourage you that after this, you may want to visit if you're looking for funding, and then it will be able to assist you. So it facilitates us. Let me just stop there. So that I think a lot of things will then come as we do the engagement and the question and answers.
Just before you get off, can you? I know that in some of your offerings, you have those that have got where if you are asking for 100% of, let's say, 10 million, but then there is like maybe 30% of that is like grant funding, you know. So are there particular sectors that you guys are focusing on, where somebody will come and borrow, a certain amount, but a portion of that doesn't have to be repaid?
Okay, thanks for that question, Doc. We've got a scheme that targets businesses in manufacturing. So if you're in manufacturing, we've got what we call, it's a blended finance scheme. Because the blended finance is a combination of a loan and a grant. So we are saying through the scheme that we have, you are able to apply for, the maximum is 15 million rands, but 20% of that can be a grant. So if you are in manufacturing, you are in agro-processing, you are in whatever you do, there's value addition, then you can apply for that scheme. And it will, like I said, give you a maximum of 15 million rands. 20% of that can be a grant. So you get a combination of a loan and a grant in one package. So, but you cannot apply for grant package alone. You can't do that as a standalone. It has to be a combination. So the small manufacturing enterprise program, that is the program that I'm talking about, which is a blended finance. Our other programs are normal debt funding, where it's 100% debt funding, and it has to be repaid. It's asset finance or term loan or working capital, but then it doesn't have that blended finance component. We also have blended finance in the space of businesses that operate in township and rural areas. It's called Township and Rural Entrepreneurship Programs. So there we also have blended finance programs, but what we have done is to package funding solution, which is a grant and a combination of a grant and a loan, but the thresholds for those businesses, most of them, we're talking about 350,000. So the maximum will be 350,000, of which 50% of that can be a grant to a maximum of 50,000. And what we have done there, we are talking about businesses that operate, like I said, in township and rural areas. So we have packaged solutions. If you are you've got a sponsor shop, we've got a sponsor shop support program. We've got another one looking at businesses in the textile industry. We've got another scheme for automotive and auto body repairs. So it's quite a variety of programs that we have. So if you visit our website and then you go through that, it's called TRAP programs. It will then be able to tell you what is the combination between a loan and a grant. But those ones are smaller loans and targeted at businesses that operate in township and rural areas. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Mashele. Now, I'm actually a bit conflicted because the speaker from NSFAS is actually trying to come in, and I didn't want to get to the next point before he has had something to say, so that we can then have our Q&A on the various issues that have come up. And I will hand over to Mr. Fraser and Ms. Sesman. So I'm just looking, maybe in the meantime, let me hand over. Walid, do you wanna
I was just about to say, Doc, maybe in the meantime, what we could do, we could take a question because somebody has posed a question to Mr. Sondala that asked if you could assist us with the formula in calculating the percentage holding you were speaking about when business partners bring in different values, that is experience, networking, resourcing, and equipment and tools. So maybe we could have that question before we go to the rest of the Q&A.
Yeah. So I'm trying to assist. Mr. Somchala?
Sorry, I was on mute. Sorry, my apologies. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Look, this is quite an interesting question, and one thing that I agree with is that if not dealt with upfront, it really leads to failure, because people tend to have conflicts and all of that. It's difficult to be generic about it because experience and networks and resources depend on an industry. For example, if you are in a professional services industry, either your business is about strategy solutions, it's about providing professional advice and support. More often, the experience one has over the years and the quality of the networks determine how you apportion your shareholding. And also, if you in an agricultural space, for example, it's not really a big issue that could weigh quite strongly in shareholding. But more of as I mean, I've got a business where we had to allocate sweat equity to some of the guys because they brought the deal and they've done some work on it over the years. How you allocate percentages, whether 10% or 50%, is really at this point difficult. I can look at it if it's a case where how would we in this specific case look at working capital. I would assume that's the money, that's the easy one, how much you've invested and in the business and contributed cash wise. Yeah, my answer, which is not an answer, is that these are important matters, but I can't generically say this is the value. It depends on the nature of the business, the type of work that one has done, but sweat equity is recognized as something that can be measured and valued.
Okay.
Hi guys. I just have a few questions and just some comments to probably just get the conversation going. First one, I'm going to be very controversial. Mr. Don Mashele said, making money is not the main motivator. I think that's where we get it wrong. It's so important for entrepreneurs to actually look at the numbers, right? Because when we do our calculations, when we're counting up our expenses, and I think something was mentioned about cost, those are actually quite important. So I think one of the things we need to move away from is saying that money isn't the main motivator and it's passion. But it is so much easier to work through stuff and get things going, especially in our climate in South Africa, where a lot of young people are unemployed and access to funding is a real issue. So I'd really like to disagree with you on that point. It is the main motivator. And then just also another point that I picked up is that you say that you didn't meet your quota for funding young people. Is it because that a lot of the requirements are very stringent and almost unrealistic, so that when you look at their requirements, they're very close to commercial banks, that there isn't really much of a difference between a developmental bank's requirements and also a commercial bank like an ABSA or an FNB. Those are just some of the things that I picked up as an entrepreneur as well, that can't the requirements be modified? I know that there were quite a few things that were raised about realizing that there isn't collateral and so many other things. But can we not just sort of work on those requirements? And also, can they not be industry specific, to say that, for instance, in the creative industry, we deal with a different funding model. And then we've got manufacturing that the funding institutions love so much, but can that not have different requirements, and so forth and so forth? So initially, I know that these requirements were made, but how frequently are they actually looked at? And you look at the current climate that we're in and say, actually, we need to adjust here and there and there. So for instance, after this pandemic, I think so much more adjustment needs to be done when looking at the funding requirements. And also, I understand mitigating risk on your side, but in terms of the requirements, how does that process actually come about? And how quickly or how frequently is it that you re-look at them and say, actually, we need to modify a few things? I think Mr. Don Mashele or Mr.
That's fine. Let me respond. Yeah, thanks. I think it's thought-provoking. That's why we're having a dialogue, and then thanks for that. So I think what I was saying is that I'm not suggesting that we need to run businesses that are not profitable. That's not what I'm saying. So the business that you run has to be profitable, has to be sustainable, and in the process making money. So I think that is the underlying fact that underlies or underpins any business. Because if you run a business that doesn't make money, you won't be here for a very long time. What I was saying is that the issue is that what you as an entrepreneur, or even if it's a career, it must be something that you are passionate about. So passion must be driving you, because what we have seen, you find out someone wants to run a business, not because they've got a talent or a passion for that business, because you probably saw a friend, saw a neighbor running the same kind of a business and making money out of it. That can't be a motivator. So I think that's what I was saying, to say we need to balance it out. You need to be passionate, have talent for it, have a business model around it. It doesn't mean that you must go home hungry because you are passionate. No, it has to be a sustainable business, but you must be driven by the passion and find a solution. Remember, I was talking about the issues of a sweet spot, where you are saying find a spot where the three circles meet. So you've got passion, you've got talent, you've got a business model. The business model, that is the money-making part. But the money-making part can't be the one that is driving you. You need to then find your passion, you need to find the talent and bring the things together. There is something what we call entrepreneurship assessment when we do the lending. So, and I think the guest speaker did mention it, the issue of the jockey. The jockey must understand the race. It's par for the course. So I think don't misunderstand me to say that don't make money. Make the money, but the thing that will drive you should be the passion. Because once you run a business, you wake up 3 o'clock in the morning because you've got a passion to do it. You've got a talent to do it. You come back home at night because you're doing something that you're passionate about. So, but if it's a question of saying that I'm motivated by the money, you'll end up not running something that can be sustainable. So I think that maybe let me just, those are the comments, and let me just park them there. Yeah, the reason we don't get a lot of, or we don't meet the target that we have for young people. We do get applications, I must be honest. Now, it's not even about the requirements, because requirements are an easy part. You tick a box here because you require this type of thing in terms of document, in terms of checklist. That the requirements we can assist. Remember, I said we've got CEDA. CEDA can help us in terms of navigating those requirements. It's not a big challenge as it were. The biggest challenge that we see, and this is not necessarily unique to young people, but because of the platform that we're having the dialogue this evening, it's a question of opportunities and also entrepreneurial skills. Because, you know, someone was saying when they were introducing themselves, they spoke about opportunities tailored for young people. Because funding comes at the end of it all. You know, the biggest thing that we need to open up are opportunities for young people. Once you've got an opportunity, money will change you. Funding is an easy part to do. The problem that we have is that if someone wants to start or start a business, the first thing that you think of is funding. But I can tell you now, a lot of entrepreneurs that have started businesses, they started on their own. You know, they started by, they didn't start by saying, I'm gonna go and apply for a loan. I'm not suggesting that is the wrong thing to do, but a lot of entrepreneurs started, okay, now I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna put aside the savings I've got, I'm gonna put certain capital around it, I'm gonna start. You know, so the issue that we have, which is a challenge, and I'm hoping at some point we're gonna resolve this. I was talking about the issue of the ecosystem, to say when you look at entrepreneurship and you look at young people in particular for the purpose of this dialogue, we need to identify what are the areas or the pillars of support that can assist young people to start or even grow their businesses. Funding is one of them. There's issues around skills. How do we navigate that? There's issues around opportunities, market opportunities. So if we can do that, I mean, if there is an opportunity, let's say, for instance, I'm just using a lousy example. We're in the space of, I mean, we're living in the area of a pandemic. The businesses that are becoming up and coming now is business around technology. If we can have a drive, someone was also talking about a political will that says, we're just going to assist young people because young people can solution things in terms of technology. And then we then drive it in that way, make sure that whatever we do, I mean, what we're using today, I mean, this evening, is technology. Most of us, all of us, sitting in front of our gadgets and we're having a discussion because of technology. So we then need to say, how do we deal with the issue of skills and opportunities? Once you resolve that, funding becomes an easy part. So it's not so much about the requirements, because requirements are easy. You know, if someone can't get a tax clearance, it's easy to assist them to get it. You know, if someone can't get financials done, it's an easy part that can be done. But the biggest part is that the applications we have seen, you realize that this is not an application that you can invest in this business and be able to say, this business in the next 5, 10, 15 years will still be here. Because remember, once you build a business, you're not building it, you are building it for yourself. But the biggest part, again, is for the generation. You want to build a legacy for the generations to come. So, so what I'm saying in short, it's not the requirements, yes, it's an easy part to deal with that, but we have other things around the issues of skills, opportunities, and other pillars of support. Thank you.
Mr. Michelle, I think while we still have you on the line, somebody posed a question, and I think it's a very relevant comment and a question. It's a comment from Nokutula. Young people do not only need funding, but also support. And the context, I suppose, around that is, especially us as Black people, we don't have a solid history of entrepreneurship. And I suppose it also got me thinking, so you provide funding to young upcoming entrepreneurs, but what type of support do you then also provide for them? And I suppose the example I'd like to make is, if you provide me with a vehicle, if nobody teaches me how to drive the vehicle will not move and will not go anywhere. So what measures are in place, what initiatives are in place to not only help fund young people, but also provide young people with the necessary support to ultimately provide the success of the business? Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good question, because what we do as well, we provide also mentorship. So we don't just provide funding. What we do is, as a lender, you might find that there are certain businesses, certain applications that will come, and you realize that you can support this application provided there is a certain level of mentorship. You know, maybe it could be mentorship in terms of market access, it could be mentorship in terms of costing or leadership, whatever the case is. So what we do is we have got a database of service providers. These are our mentors. So we're able to provide mentorship. to those. So that is the kind of support that we do provide. So it's there, but it's done once you are saying, I've seen this business. I think it can be successful if we link this young person with this mentor and manage that. And we call it deliberately so mentorship, and we give it a time period. And the reason we're giving it a time period, because what we're measuring in that process is the issue of skills transfer. Because it can easily become a consulting thing, which is not what we're here to do. So if I'm saying that you pairing a young person and a mentor, and you have identified that the gap probably, like I was saying, it's costing or market access. Once that relationship comes to an end, the young person must be able to do this thing on their own. So there is the issue of mentorship that we do as part of the package. Thank you.
I think Mr. Songela has had his hand up before he even forgets what he wants to say. Can we maybe go to him? I think he might have wanted to add on to what Mr. Mashele was saying.
Thanks a lot. Just to build a point on what Mr. Mashele was saying, and very, very, very important. He mentions the kind of ecosystem that's important for young people and an entrepreneur for that matter. I just want to make one point. Mentorship is not a one, week event or 2 weeks event. It's a journey. It's a journey. And at all times, those that are successful redefine mentorship. You remember we spoke about look at your inner circle, expand that inner circle always. Look at the external environment. Young people and entrepreneurs that are successful always consistently look for mentors, informal and formal. But more often, it's the informal guys, can we have a coffee? Can we talk about this? So just be conscious about it all the time. That would be my advice.
Okay. And I think, Mr. Samkela, while I have you here, because I was writing a few points when you were speaking initially, and a lot of the points that you were mentioning at a later stage were actually linking into the introductions that young people were making. So for instance, Kabelo, she's in animation, and her pain point was that we're young and there's no template. Kabelo, no, Tandi, we also mentioned that there's no political will for young people. I mean, a lot of the things that came up was just representation for young people. So whether it's in politics, I mean, it's a point that I also raised, whether it's in politics, business, in so many areas, there's no representation for young people. So it seems as though we're trying to come up with solutions for young people, but there are people that are right at the top that don't really understand and don't know what's actually happening on the ground. So I know you mentioned mentorship, but I can only guess that there's a handful of mentors that you can put together. What about actual representation at the higher level so that we can stress the importance of actually having a lot of young people in different sectors that'll relate better to our problems and help us solve the problems that we have?
Thanks. I'm sure Dr. Nyati will agree with me that when we started working, we were lucky because the ministers then were young, 42 years, some even 35. So the point raised by young people is very, very valid. Today, we have old people just all over the show. And if you ask me, wherever I am, I'm always old. And I think it's a different terrain to navigate for someone who politically is not there. And I would argue, perhaps it's in the struggles today of young people to get there. And yeah, it's not the right thing to have to debate about us as young people without us. I can only leave it at that, quite honestly. And I would agree.
Sorry, can I just say there's some people who have their hands up on Zoom, and then if you're on social media, please can you make comments or ask your questions via the social media pages. We are regularly checking, and we will raise any questions you have.
I think there's Miss Vulelani Mabanga. She's had her hand up for quite a while, and then after that we can go to Vuyo Pakat. Miss Vulelani Mabanga.
Hi, I think I have various issues to bring up, and also just a few questions that I'm hoping that will be answered in general. I think the first one that I want to ask, right, and in terms of the whole chats that we've been having about passion and whatnot, my number one thing is that how do these institutions such as CIFA and in general, how do you cultivate entrepreneurship before someone goes into funding? And I think there are things that could help, such as incubators, like accelerators, and innovation hubs and whatnot. But I noticed the problem with such is that those hubs, they are based mainly in the cities such as Joburg, Durban, and Cape Town. And you have certain locations in South Africa that are completely sidelined to ensure that there's some sort of support before someone goes and gets funding. You need to cultivate that those entrepreneurial skills, the mindset and whatnot. And I noticed that, for example, in the Eastern Cape where I come from, where are those hubs? When are they coming out? What other form of support are you able to bring in the rural community, in general, in the economy that is in areas that are often sidelined when it comes to entrepreneurial development in that regard, especially if we look at the Eastern Cape. Eastern Cape has a lot of potential with regards to the agricultural space, with regards to the tourism space. Everyone talks about going through the tourism space. Everyone talks about going through, along the coast, and we have all of those. It's potential, but potential needs to be nurtured in order for it to get to a point where it's viable and it creates jobs and provides other forms of support before someone gets funding. Where are those hubs located in the areas that are often sidelined? Why aren't institutions providing more resources in those areas? And not just that, why are they not prioritizing those places first before we get to the urban areas of Cape Town, Johannesburg, and Durban? So what more can those institutions do for the areas that are normally sidelined? That is my first question. My second issue is regards to I know I've talked about how before you get to funding, there's a certain level where you need to go, but I'm speaking right now. I can afford to go print. I can afford to go print. I can afford to go apply and apply online because I've got Wi-Fi. But there are certain instances where before you even get to the bigger expenses that are in your business, there are little things that come in there before that. And the issue with us right now, for example, if you're a student, you don't have disposable income to try and start a business. You can't expect certain people to bootstrap and to raise capital and funds on their own, because in the nature of it is very, very exclusionary. For example, even with me right now, a lot of the times when we apply for funding, the first thing that people say, especially in the tech space, is that, okay, go and build your idea, find a way to do it. And then once you have developed enough traction, and once you are at a certain place, once you have revenue for the last 2 years, then come back to us and let's look at it. The problem with that is that, so how am I going to bootstrap? Who am I going to ask with regards to that? It's very exclusionary in the sense that normally those kind of requirements appeal to people that are able to use disposable income or other forms of income to really build a business before it gets to a place where now they're just looking for money to expand. Now, a small girl from the Eastern Cape who has no access to lack of disposable funds, or someone else maybe who has other barriers to entry in that regard, how are you assisting them before that? How are you ensuring that Lamdu has enough money to go and print that application form, has data to go download and go apply online on that application form. So I feel as though it comes from a place of privilege sometimes when we say, oh, just go online or just do this. What support structures are you ensuring before you do that, before you let people have all of these requirements? And sometimes the requirements, they say that, okay, it's for youth and it's for all of that. But in order for you to apply, you need this, that. And on top of that, the blood of the lamb in order to get through with it. And then it's asking us, why don't we have passion, Jani? So what are we doing before entrepreneurs get to that point? And how are you reviewing the success of the implementation of the programs that you have? How many times can you say that, okay, these are the businesses that we funded, these are the businesses that have worked, these are the issues that we've come up with, and how do you fix those issues with regards to that? That I think that is my main point of contention, is that before someone gets funding, there's a lot that goes on in your journey. And I feel like some quite exclusionary when we don't address those things, especially in the country that we live in. So I think I want to address that. And secondly, I also want to...
Sorry. Can we manage the time? We have many people who need to talk.
Yes,
I was wondering, maybe we should just like limit it for like two minutes or 1 minute and 30 seconds per person. Just in the time, guys. Can we just give everybody the opportunity to ask the questions? So if we can just be mindful, limit your questions.
And can it be one question as well? And can we also get to the point? Because at some point I got lost in context as to what exactly is being. So straight to the point and one question, guys, so we can all have an opportunity to answer. So I think Mr. Somtyala and Mr. Mashele.
Yeah, okay. I'll try and take the first bite, but you're right. I also got lost somewhere. But what I did get is that there's quite a lot of things that have to happen before you can apply for funding. I think that was the moral of the story in a way, which is true. As I was saying, that we've got other agencies that assist in that space of preparing entrepreneurs to be funding ready. Bulelani was talking about the issue of the hubs. SEDA, our sister agency, as I'm talking to you now, if you have listened to what our minister keeps preaching, is that we need to expand, and there is a target of expanding those hubs and those incubators to also be present in the rural areas and townships. So my response to that is challenge your local SEDA branch. You know, the beauty about SEDA is that they've got an office in each and every municipality. So I think sometimes we need to be practical about these things. So SEDA, Small Enterprise Development Agency, in any local or district municipality, they've got an office. So if you really are saying that we need to get access to those hubs, etc., go to the nearest SEDA office. They'll be able to assist you in terms of the issues around the hubs. The other thing that SEDA does, SEDA has got strategic partnerships with a few universities, particularly the entrepreneurial divisions or departments within those universities. So they partner and they do quite a number of interventions with students. So I'm saying that do a bit of research and understand that space that says, see that they partner universities, and you can again say, go to the nearest SEDA branch. They will be able to tell you in your area which universities are they partnering with, just to assist, because funding comes, like I was saying, at a later point, you know. So there are initiatives that are there. We just need to look at it a bit wider. We will find them. The issue of monitoring and evaluation, we do that all the time. So I think let me not waste time in that. You can't have an institution that doesn't do monitoring and evaluation in terms of the things that we do, how to improve going forward. So that happens. The other thing, I think let's also be solution driven. You know, because if we leave this room, it's got another 30 minutes, we need to have takeaways that says, Doc, what did we bring, what was born from this discussion. And then that, so that when we have this discussion next year, this time, we're able to say, SIFA, we have said go and do this. Young people, we have said go and do this. What has happened? It becomes a report card. Because I don't want us to have this again and then we talk about what we, I mean, so I think let's also be solution driven. And my challenge really will be, one of the challenges that we have, and it's not unique to young people, is the challenge that we do see as practitioners in the space of enterprise development, is we don't have a solid voice of entrepreneurs, the voice of small businesses. So if you are sitting in a corner and you're Don Mashele there, you're fighting your own battle. The guest speaker was talking about the networks and so on and so on. But I think we also need to think in terms of, let's have vibrant chambers, as it were. And I'm not talking chambers in a political sense, real business chambers, where if you're saying you want to challenge the powers that be, if you come as a chamber and you're coming as a voice of young people, it makes it a little bit easier. Because you can then challenge an institution like CEDA or whoever and say, in my area in the Eastern Cape, there's no hub. I can't go there as an individual, it becomes a bit of a challenge. But if I'm saying that we are a chamber of 200 young entrepreneurs, we need a hub to do X, Y, Z. So I think if we can have something that says, let's have a voice of entrepreneurs, a voice of small business. It's a challenge that we do face as practitioners in the space, because you can solve individual problems, but you're not gonna get there quicker. But if you solve that as an institutionalized type of a structure, it makes it a little bit easier. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Don Mashele. I think it's quite good that you mentioned the solutions-driven part of it. And what I've noticed that in our country, maybe it's not unique to our country, but there is actually quite a bit, even though we are constantly every single day on social media as the youth, putting the government down, there is also quite a lot that the government is doing. So I think also just a lack of information, possibly us doing research on our side, but then also the government saying that we've put certain structures and organizations in place. So maybe then communicating it better and making sure that that flow of information flows down to everyone. So if you're saying that there's a CEDA office in every single province, then I think maybe that should be communicated a bit more from your side, and then the initiative comes in, because there's so many great programs that the government has in place and has put in place, but then the actual problem, I think, is then communication. So from, I think, your organizations being more dynamic, young people on social media, let's do that. The young people that don't have access to data, for instance, because data is really expensive, let's find other ways to go there. I mean, with the pandemic now, it makes it a bit difficult to do activations or such that could have been easily done. But then now it is your homework as the organizations to then say, the ones that are not on social media, how do we then make sure that we reach them so that they constantly know that these opportunities are out there? Can I just request that, I think Mr. Libona just wanted to add a bit of a comment, and can you please just make the comment a bit short? It is a youth dialogue. There are a few youth participants that just wanted to add some comments. So Mr. Labone, can you just come in quickly with your comment? And then after that, Vuyo Pagade, can you come in? And then Kabelo, can you come in after that?
Thank you very much, Mayor. All that I wanted to do is that in the name of trying to see this glass as half full, I just wanted to ask if it's also possible among ourselves as youth, and in this I will quote Dr. Lwazi Lushaba when he says that a type of education that does not seek to rehumanize society has an intrinsic problem. And in this, he was trying to say that if X and Y and Z cannot come together, form a consortium and approach government, perhaps these people are in the engineering sector and say, okay, we are engineers, we have a business that seeks to provide engineering solutions to the disconnected communities. Government give us material, and then we are able to say that we will put our skill set at disposal so that we exploit solutions and see if we cannot build cheap, cost-effective roads for the townships that need roads, because we have a problem with potholes and so forth. And I'm merely using that stream to make a point. Now, what I was trying to get to is that among ourselves, isn't it also possible that we can try and exploit the idea of saying, what can unity do for us? You know, if somebody is in the literature space, another person is in the agricultural space, another person is in the space, can we not form a consortium thereon, approach CIFA and CEDA and say that, okay, we've come together, we have solutions for society. What is it that you can do for us in the consortium? So I was only trying to say that at the larger scheme of things, let's allow ourselves to also exploit what unity can do for us, because I'm sure that in us coming together, you know, we can build cheap, cost-effective.
Sorry, I'm just very conscious regarding time. So I just sorry to cut you off there. I'm just in the conscious of the time for the rest of the panelists.
Okay.
Can I comment?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah, no, thank you very much, Mr. Mashila, Mr. Somkyala, for, you know, all the words that you've given us. I think, yeah, in the interest of this being a youth day discussion and youth day dialogue, Mr. Mashila has mentioned that we should be very solutions orientated. I think a lot more, we've been hearing a lot less about the youth in this dialogue, if I'm being honest, but I think to really get to maybe a solution, Mr. Mashila, we have a lot of frustrations. It's simple as that, as youth, entrepreneurs, SMEs, startups, they're all separate. We all have our own challenges. And I think one solution is not to say necessarily that capital or funding is not an important thing. I think funding speaks to some of the problems you've also addressed. There's a lack of skills, but lack of skills is often, you know, brought out by capital. A lack of time as well for young people. We can't live off the passion forever, as I think many have actually mentioned before. That, you know, passion is not going to really drive the time that we have to spend on our solutions and address the problems we're looking to do. We have a whole bunch of young people here, and I know you've also mentioned that you're looking to build a model. You'll go back. You've had challenges with funding youth. I don't know what solutions have been thought around that and incorporating youth in these kind of discussions, because as you're looking to build models, as you're looking to address some of the challenges that you guys may have as CIFA to fund youth, how is youth being invited to be part of those discussions? How is youth being invited as entrepreneurs to be part of the solutions? You know, I think one of the biggest challenges that we've always had in engaging with DFIs and with government in general is that it seems to be that government wants to be the implementer as well as the person that orchestrates, as opposed to be an enabling party for other people to come up with the solutions and you enable that. So I just want to, you know, request that from you. What is the take from our discussion now? How is the rest of us in this discussion going to be invited to be part of those discussions of building the model? And how would we as entrepreneurs be able to come with our own solutions to partner with you as CIFA to actually implement those solutions that we bring to the table?
Can I just comment, if you allow me, on that? So I think it's a pity Dr. Mohale was saying, let's come up with something. Remember, what we are saying as CIFA or government broadly is to say, here we are, we have got a funding solution. That is the CIFA mandate now. Our solution is to provide funding to whatever problems that you have. And the guest speaker did say that there's a shift in terms of how we provide that funding. We can tailor anything. You know, CIFA, most DFIs today, you can tailor anything that makes sense. If you come and say, here is our problem, here are the frustrations, package something and come with a proposal, come with a business case, can you, as a CIFA, solution this thing by way of funding? We can't provide that solution for you. What we can do is you need to come up with something that says, how can you assist me as CIFA? This is my problem in terms of funding. And I will, after this, I mean, I'll be brave enough to leave my email address here so that it's not a talk shop. You know, don't just talk here, you know, after 2 weeks, nothing has happened. If you want to engage on a one-on-one basis, by all means, we can do that. But I was thinking that this being a youth dialogue, the solution that we come up with is a solution that is structured. Hence, I was saying that you need a voice of small businesses, of young entrepreneurs. And I think Dr. Mohale was on the right track before the previous speaker to say, let's as young people group ourselves and say, CIFA, This is us. You were just using an example of a pothole as an example. I'm sure, I know that was an example, but you are saying, let's approach CIFA as a collective and say, this is the solution that we're bringing on board. If you recall, the last family meeting we had with the state president, I think his closing parting shot was, think in terms of what you can do for the country, not what the country can do for you. I think I remember those words. You know, we're having another family meeting, I'm told, on Sunday. Hope it doesn't come. But I'm saying that let's come up with something, not as individuals. I'll still leave my email address. If you want a solution individual, we can engage. But from this discussion that Dr. Nyati, this dialogue that Dr. Nyati has put together, let's come with a solution that it's a structured solution, and it's a solution that is talking about, it's a youth dialogue. You know, and then we group yourselves together and say, we can do something for this country as young people. And this is what we want to do as if, and I can't give that solution. You know, what I can say, I can engage with that proposal and say, okay, now from what you're saying, again, using the Mohada's example of a pothole, if your solution is to address the problems we have in municipalities where people can close potholes, then let's find a business model to do that and see if I can actually do that. If you come with engineers, you come with this and this and this, we can provide something to do that. In closing, let me say this. You know, I was thinking, the youth of 76, I was 10 years old, by the way, in 76, so you can quickly do your numbers. The youth of 76 had a solution, and they brought us to where we are today. There was the issue of recently the fees must fall. And, you know, so I'm saying as young people, there is something that we can do in the space of entrepreneurship. And as a collective, I'm challenging to say, engage CIFA. If you engage us, and then we can bring other institutions of government to say, how do you assist and partner with you? Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Mr. Don Mashele. I think one of the solutions that came up was communication, that all these government projects are there, and all this government aid is there, but possibly what can be done is then just communicating it better, or making sure that there's consistent communication around solutions, so that we're not always looking for problems where the solutions are also there. It's just something that I've been playing around in my mind, I think, since we started, is that we have all of these DFIs and all of these requirements, and there was quite a lot of young people here within the session that were saying, no, the requirements are a bit stringent. And it's something that I think myself as well. The requirements are a bit, they could be improved upon since the first time that they were laid there. So possibly, could this be done? Could this be, because I'm not really looking for an answer, it's just something I'm throwing out there. Could it possibly be because that the funders themselves are not entrepreneurs? So therefore they don't
I think
really know.
let's do this. I think this is a dialogue. Let me interject. Because sometimes it's easy if you've got a power of the mic to say something and get away with it, right? If you're saying the requirements are stringent, I've just dropped my email address for everybody. Be specific in terms of those requirements. I was having another webinar last week. You know, there was this young person, SOA2, was saying, your application form has got a lot, it's looking for a lot of things. And then I put the application form on the screen. And I said, okay, now let's go line by line. What are you talking about? Now he said, no, but your application form doesn't ask if I'm a young person. But I'm saying you don't have to put that in the application form. If we ask for your ID, by extension, we'll know whether you're a young person. So I think colleagues and everybody in the platform, for the benefit of value from this discussion, let's be specific. If we're talking about the requirements, I'm willing to engage to say what the requirements really are you talking about? So that people, because the other thing when we do this dialogue, these discussions, is to say, how do we make it easy for entrepreneurs to access the offerings that we've got, right? So we become transparent and say, for you to access, you have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, if you're saying requirements is a generic term. Now be specific to say, no, but you see, for as an example, you are looking for 10% contribution before people can apply. You know, at least you are being specific. So I'm saying I've left my email address there. If you think the requirements are very stringent, let's be granular about it. Drop me an email we say, okay, this is the area that worries me. Then we can solution that, and then other people in future can be able to access. But now if we say broad general requirements, it becomes a bit tricky, but let's just be specific.
Okay, everyone, I hope everyone took down the email. Kabelo, shame you've been holding on for so long.
No, it's okay. I actually don't have a question. I have a comment. So I actually have found that I've decided I don't want to, at least at this stage of my business, go to places where I need to get into debt to get funding. And so I've relied on my skills and whatever savings I could get from whatever jobs I could find to try to build the studio. And so in these kinds of contexts, I'm more interested in hearing what other young business owners are doing to solve problems rather than interrogating the funders and, you know, pointing out their flaws. Obviously, it is important to point out their flaws, but I just find it more interesting to hear what other people are doing to solve the problems that they're encountering. So I mentioned that the issue that I have is that I don't have a template, I don't have an example. And so what I decided is I decided to become a template, to become an example. I mentioned that my animation students call me Miss K. And once they found out that I was trying to start an animation business, they would come to me and ask me like, Miss K, how do I invoice? Small things like that, you know? And what I then decided to do with my business, Cablo Studios, on top of trying to, you know, make money from servicing our clients in the medical industry, we created the Business of Animation podcast, because I realized that even though I went to film school and I was privileged like that, nobody tells you how the animation industry actually makes money. Where do you sell your movies? Who's buying? And so once I started learning about it, I made a podcast. I was like, I'll share it mainly to keep in contact with my students, but now it's getting exposure elsewhere in the continent and in the world. And then the other thing that I did as well, which this is a positive thing. It actually got funding through the National Film and Video Foundation, their presidential fund. We started a residency program for 5 young animation directors so that they could make their first short film. And we're going into our last month in July, because we found that filmmakers, there are great grant funding opportunities for filmmakers, but they usually have to have made something before, like how everybody else has explained. So I decided, okay, cool, I have funding. Let me help somebody make their first short film so that when they have to go to KZN Film Commission, a National Film and Video Foundation, etc., Gauteng Film Commission, they have this film that they've made. And so then that issue of experience is out of the way. So those are just my comments. Thank you.
Cool, thanks, Kabelo, which is actually quite a great one. And Dr. Fundi and I actually had a discussion the other day to say, in the absence of funding, or since we have so many qualms with funding, what else can be done? I know that in our early stages of our business, what we did a lot of was a barter exchange. So for instance, we come to you, Kabelo, and say that we want to make our social media more dynamic in terms of animation. How can you help us? And you needed to put your projects out there and your company out there. So as a PR company, we would then say, let's do a fair exchange where I give you 5,000 Rand value of PR and you give me 5,000 value of animation. So I actually think that's actually quite a great idea. And if people could maybe make use of that in the instances where your cash flow is really not there or you're not getting the right funding that you want to, which will actually help you attract clients, and you getting clients in can actually be your funding. Tandy, you've had your hand up for quite a while and I've seen something in the comment section.
Hi, everyone. I will just be very brief. The only thing that we need as young people, as a chemical engineer, as well as a farmer, is that we need CIFA or any other government agency to be able to bridge the gap. Because we are coming from university, we have the know-how, the theory of how we want to do things, how we want to produce. But then when we want to implement this to our communities, we do not have enough funding. So when you get into the pilot phase, you are required to do the feasibility studies. And when you go to DBSA does not fund the pre-feasibility study. So you need to be able to do the EIA, you need to do, there's so many things in between that requires a lot of funding, and we don't have any space. Even the incubators, they don't have that funding to be able to bridge you between a lab scale and pilot phase. So what I have done, I have started farming because I don't have finance, I don't have millions, but with funding, I will be able to have a capital so that I can show that I am owning the business and I want to move forward. So my suggestions also to other young people is you don't have to say, I'm starving. You can start farming and surround yourself with abundance of food and start selling so that you understand the customer while you are looking ahead at your milestones. Thank you.
Thank you, Tandiwe. Is Mr. Vumezita there? I think I saw that he left. Mr. Ngoba? Okay.
He's still there.
I think it's he, because he also had his hand up. Mr. Vumezita Ngoba?
Yes, colleagues, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. My network is a bit unstable. Okay. Two things I wanted to raise. Firstly, with regard to funding, I believe that, or rather, I will plead with the funding institution in general, and also with our colleagues that is present on this dialogue, is that when it's come to rejection, I believe that they should have a method that is a bit solution-oriented, or that will assist those that are rejected not to be demoralized. Because if you are not funded at that point in time, it does not mean that your business should not go out there and produce as it was producing and so forth, or you shouldn't seek alternatives. But what we are finding now is that most of the people that were rejected are so much demoralized that, you know, they will go and seek employment instead of seeking other avenues, you know. And also, another thing is that I wish somehow that the funding institution can also introduce another leg of assisting youth besides support your general support, but also look at what work for the entrepreneurs that were not funded. You know, I mean, to an extent that even if they can enable other entrepreneurs, not just those that are graduated and come with sophisticated qualification, but general successful entrepreneurs to come in and say, can you freelance in our discussion or in our formulation of the criteria to see that based on your business model or how you can present your business, we can, you know, straight see that you are not eligible for funding, but somehow you went out there without us and you made it, you know. So I believe it's called continuous improvement, innovation, and so forth, to further engage, you know, as, you know, we cannot always be desktop when it comes to solutions. Desktop approach can work, but sometimes it doesn't work, you know. And also, or lastly, my input is that I believe that business should understand its position, not only big business, but business in general. Globally, business has got a position that is always above politics. But the question is always that, are we organized enough? We have seen in our country that other business, especially other races, are so much organized that the government comes to them, you know, government goes to them. Government always consult business before they make any major decision, whether it's relating to funding or not. But with us youth, or with us Black businesses, especially youth, we are not consulted. We are nowhere. Even when the criteria, the funding criteria are presented, you can see that this was made for us without us. And that question there, you know, cannot be left unattended. So I think most of our solutions are within us. We need to be organized, whether in a form of forums, whether in a form of chambers, and so forth. But we need to be organized as Black youth business. Thank you.
Okay. I think just before we head to Vuyo Pakate, just a point that you raised, Vumezite. You said, you know, people get rejected and then they get discouraged and they go back to the job market. As an entrepreneur, you face a lot of rejection. Even if you start turning over 100 million, you will still face rejection. So it's about the softer skills, I guess. to say that, yes, I have faced rejection, but I'm still going to continue because I've got this vision. And it goes back to what the previous speakers were saying. You've got this passion, you actually have a problem to solve, and there's something that's motivating you every day. But perhaps we do also hear the point of view saying that maybe the rejection should come in a more structured form to say, maybe fix this, maybe fix that. So I don't know if I understood that correctly, but it's just a point I wanted to make. Yes, Doc?
Yeah, Solomon, we were supposed to have this session for a 2-hour period, and we had hoped that in the last 30 minutes, we would have 10 minutes to give to Dr. Bunolo Mashishi. Today, it's International Drugs Day, you know, and it's one of the big problems we have in this country, you know, and also worldwide, you know, the fact that a lot of dreams have been sabotaged by, you know, young people dabbling in drugs, initially just use, but later it becomes abuse, and later it becomes addiction. So now I had asked if we could extend this by a few minutes so that we can finish the business discussion, but still have the 10 minutes for Doc, but I'm not sure how long Doc is available. So I wanted you know, to hear from you guys if you think maybe we should then schedule that talk on drugs for another day, you know, or we can still finish in the next 15 minutes. That is the business side. What are your thoughts?
I would suggest we wrap up the business side of it for the next 14 minutes, and then we can have Dr. Manolo still coming in, because she did grant you her time.
Agreed. I agree.
I agree too.
Great. So I think the next person who wanted to come on was Mr. Vuyo. You've had your hand up for quite a while.
No, thank you very much. I just think I wanted to just make a comment with regards to what Kabelo had mentioned, Kabelo's comment around and Siba's comment around the exchanging of services. And I think, guys, we need to really take, I think Bulelani mentioned this earlier, about the privilege that a lot of us do have in being able to, you know, one, let's take into example, learning animation. I'm going to use Kabelo as an example, given what she had already given. Guys, we're sitting in an economy in our country. There's 8.7 million young people between 15 and 35 that don't have access to education, employment, or training. This is a reality. Like, this is a reality. We have 74.7% unemployment rate. This is a true reality. There are so many people that cannot afford to go to higher education or learn skills, don't have access to resources, don't have access to data, don't have access to TV, don't have access to all the means to actually learn these skills. But yet we're taking for granted that these kind of things that we're coming with as our own solutions that work for us are things that everyone is able to get. And remember, for these things, you need access to capital in one form or another. Others go through NSFAS, but not everyone can get that access. So we do need to take into consideration as we're coming up with these solutions that we're going around, not to just take in ourselves and what as youth, you know, getting distracted about the fact that as ourselves, as some of the youth that are privileged, are able to still look at alternatives outside of funding to make our businesses a reality. Let's also be, you know, taking into consideration the vast majority of people that don't have that access, don't have access to networks. You know, we're not like our counterparts. And I think I don't want to make it a racial thing as well. But it's true that in South Africa, we're sitting at 34.1% of Black Africans that are unemployed, when the white counterparts are sitting at 8.1%. That is current facts. So we also need to understand that access to networks, access to capital is going to be vastly different for us as Black people. And if we don't have those ahead of us that are enabling us as young people to come up with our solutions and still get access to the means to provide, you know, as entrepreneurs, we're supposed to be the ones that are providing opportunities for others, job opportunities for graduates and for other skilled people. So I think, yeah, as we're making some of these things, we just also take into consideration that there are people that don't have access to any of this tools that we have. So much of the solutions that we may think can work for us, I think if we're collectively coming together as youth, let's also say that our voices must be heard for those that aren't here in this current situation.
Thank you, Vuyo. And it actually goes back to Mr. Somkela's point that he made earlier. He mentioned quite a lot of things. And then also his one main point that he made is relationships and networks. And how do we actually penetrate those networks? How do we build those networks where we can feed off each other? And I think if we don't have access to networks like that, this is an opinion. Of course, everyone can weigh in on it, but should we not utilize what we have in our circles? So even though we might not all of us might have access to doc, and maybe we want to be in the medical field, or we don't have access to Kabelo, or you want to be in animation, but how do we leverage, which is what I think Kabelo was trying to say as well, and myself, how do we leverage within our immediate ecosystem to see how we can help each other, in the sense that we don't have these bigger and better networks to reach out to? So I also think that we should look within our own ecosystems and within our own networks that we actually have access and reach to. Mr. Don Mashele, you have your hand up?
Yeah, thanks. I've got time constraints because I had scheduled that I'll be here up until 6. So I don't know if there are questions directed at me. I can just maybe talk those few questions, then I need to disappear.
Okay, I think, guys, we have about 5 minutes. So if people can just raise their hands, we can open it up quickly, just for the next 5 minutes, so that we can allow for just a vote of thanks at the end, and also for Dr. Bonolo to come in. Mr. Pilasanda Magwentu. Can you unmute?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I've been hearing what the speakers are on about, but I believe that solutions to these problems still rest with us as young people. I mean, there's a working model. 45 years ago, young people came together, they identified a problem, and then they acted on it. And if we are saying they are gatekeepers, we don't have enough information in this day and age. I mean, we are just being mischievous. So what I'm saying is that young people should come together, act to young people as future leaders, so that they can familiarize themselves with the burden of leadership. So in a nutshell, what I'm saying is that the networks that one of the speakers spoke about, the unity towards a common goal, those are the key things that can erase our frustrations. Thank you.
Okay, so I think that was more of a comment than it was a question. I think we've got about 4 minutes. We can take one question or comment very quickly, and then we can move on to Dr. Bonolo, because we still have another 2 items on our agenda. Okay, I don't think so. Dr. Fundi Lenyati, can we close off the Q&A? Is there something else that you'd like to add?
No, I think the comment I would like to make quickly is that, the discussions, I was hoping that they will be broader than just entrepreneurship. I'm an entrepreneur myself, but I think there are also other career options where one does not necessarily have to be an entrepreneur. There are a lot of careers within established, entities that people can also explore and acquire knowledge and skills within the big spaces. But also, not everybody who has to start a business has to go and borrow money. In my case, myself and my partners, we did not really have much. So what we needed to do then was to make our business concept so attractive that we could go and get old money to come in as a minority shareholder in our business, so that that seed capital was enough for the first 3 years of the business. So sometimes think beyond going to ask for money from somewhere else. Look and say, who can come in as a minority shareholder in my business? Who can add value, give me the networks, and give me the experience? So I'm basically saying not everybody is cut out to be an entrepreneur. There's nothing wrong with following a career within a big corporate. Learn, and when you are ready, then you can set yourself up. So entrepreneurship is very good, but not everybody is cut out to be one. So I think with those words, maybe let's just hand over to Doc. I'm a bit, worried because she's supposed to be on call.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for the invite. I'm happy to be here with everybody. I think this is an important dialogue to have in our Youth Month. So as Dr. Nyati has already said, that today is about International Day of Drugs. So just to briefly introduce myself to everybody on the panel. My name is Dr. Bunalo Mashishi. I'm a specialist in infectious diseases, specifically in viruses. I have streamed into substance use and abuse, not necessarily as an expert in addiction medicine, but because I know that people who are suffering from addictions and substance abuse kind of overlaps with infectious diseases, because most of the infectious diseases that we see, such as HIV, etc., are commonly found in those individuals. So over the course of the week, we have been celebrating Substance Awareness Week in South Africa. So I have been engaging on several of those discussions, and today I'll just be sharing some of that knowledge with you guys. And I think it's important that we're also having this dialogue preceding my talk about entrepreneurship and finding solutions to unemployment, because we know that, just paralleling what has happened in other countries, even first world countries, we know that high unemployment rates and economic recessions kind of are a foundation and build up to epidemics associated with substance abuse. So I think in the earlier years in the European countries, there was a time where the economic environment was a bit hostile, similar to what we're facing now in the pandemic and what we'll continue to face post the pandemic. And also the political atmosphere was also a bit hostile. So all of that compounded with other social factors laid the breeding ground for what was considered a substance abuse epidemic. And sometimes people will talk about how we need not wait until we start seeing high numbers of individuals engaging in substance misuse and abuse, that we need to be proactive. And it's safe to say that in South Africa, we are seeing numbers of individuals who are engaging in substances increasing, and it's predicted that they will continue to increase. And there are several numbers. I mean, there's several reasons for this. I mean, as I've mentioned, economic status, high unemployment rates, political atmosphere, but also just opening our borders to, the roots of trading. We are at the tip of, most of the routes that are used for bringing in illicit substances are around, the borders, the harbors, and we have several harbors in South Africa. So given that, we know that it's predicted to increase over the years. So the dialogue I think we should be having as youth really is, how then do we engage with members of the community, other peers and youth members, on how we can actually mitigate what could be potentially devastating. I don't think it's an easy thing to talk about, and people who have suffered from substance disorders or substance abuse will tell you the challenges that they have faced. And it goes beyond, psychosocial, mental health issues, and just general health and well-being. So what solutions are people looking to find to this problem of substance abuse? I think I'd like to throw that out to the panel and people who are on this call. I think based on the short time that I was on the call, I saw that this is quite an engaging and interactive session. So I'm not going to be saying a lot more, but rather responding to what is being discussed regarding this issue.
So maybe, Doc, what I was hoping for, that because of the very, diverse stressors that the young people are going through, lack of opportunity, unemployment. So people, when they are stressed, they escape to drugs, and the most common, if you said, alcohol and dacha and other hard ones. So I think people need to know that I'm getting to a point where my stresses are too much. Let me seek help. And so where can they get help? Because dabbling into the drugs does not necessarily remove the problem that they have. It may even compound it. Yeah. So just a little bit about that, Doc, if you don't mind.
No, certainly it will compound on a problem, and you don't want to add a problem to a problem. I think it's important to understand the benefits of a healthy lifestyle. I mean, even if you are in the constraints of hardships, I think having I mean, we talk about risk factors and protective factors for all substance disorders, and risk factors are the ones that we've mentioned, the hardships that people go through, but there are protective factors, and the protective factors are really aimed to build resilience in the face of hardships that people may be going through. I think having a strong support system is quite important. And, you know, in a phase where you may be feeling alone and unsupported, I think it's important to reach out. It's also important to know that a support system is not necessarily people you live with, you know, it's not necessarily family, it's not necessarily your friends, but a support system can be formed just, you know, anywhere and anyhow, provided that these are people who are bringing in good solutions into your life. I think that's very important. Relationships have been found to be protective against a number of mental health illness. I think it's important to also understand that substance abuse and misuse is considered, you know, as a psychiatric condition. So all the protective factors that we talk about in mental health care, we also apply here. Also living a healthy lifestyle is something that we always advocate for. Exercise, you know, good sleep. I mean, you talk about, so when you are stressed, your body goes through a number of changes. There are hormonal changes, your endocrine system gets shot, and you want to reach a balance of your hormones. And also drugs also adjust your hormones altogether, you know, in the brain especially. But similarly, in the same hormones that drugs will impact on in your brain can be elicited through other ways. For instance, exercise, good sleep, good nutrition. And I mean, we do face challenges with malnutrition and access to healthy food, but just trying your best to access those facilities is actually quite protective. And then there are also other structures and systems in place that allow for people to reach out when they're feeling overwhelmed and depressed, anxious, or whatever that may be. I know there's Sanka that people can reach out to. There are a number of NPO groups that are available on social media platforms that people can reach out to. I saw in one of the comments earlier, somebody talking about, we see adverts mainly around alcohol and automobiles. And I think that's very, very true. The influence of media is really, really powerful. And we are seeing a lot of media influencers promoting illicit use, such as alcohol. I mean, it's safe to say that alcohol is a drug that is being promoted. But in the same light as seeing those media you know, adverts or whatever it may be, there are places that one can go to engage in to shy away from such media influences. So it's about also making a choice and a decision that you want to make something better despite the hardships that you may be facing. So I hope that answers the question and brings a bit of light to that. And also, you know, substance abuse is also a buildup. I think most people, as Dr. Nyati said, we start from recreational use, then it leads to abuse and later addiction. So we often see that people start with what's considered soft, and then they build up to the harder substances. And sometimes people don't even have that opportunity to go through soft to hard. it's immediately going to the hard substances, and all these substances differ based on the degree of getting addicted. So there are substances that you can use once off, and you can be addicted and dependent on these substances immediately. And there are substances where you have to actually increase the frequency of which you use, the way you actually get the drugs into your system, etc., leading you up to actually getting to the addiction phase.
Thank you very much, Doc. Over to the, if there are no questions, over to the moderators. I don't think there's anything much I need to say in closing. So yeah, let me leave it to the moderators, which should be done by 12:30.
So Mr. Fraser just asked if he could be excused. He had to rush to the airport. So apologies for that. I didn't mention it earlier. I think just to summarize what's been said, we won't really have time for questions. I don't think we have enough time for questions on that. Thank you so much, Dr. Bonolo. But I think just some of the things that we've observed is the most important question that actually came up at a later stage from Dr. Fundile is not everyone is meant for entrepreneurship. So possibly also just introspecting and seeing, is this really the route that you're supposed to take? But then also exploring other routes that you could get into business with. And then going back to what the speaker says, or Dr. Mashele, I think he's also just jumped off a bit to just also say, what is your motivator? He also included passion, that I know that I might have watered down a bit, but those are quite important factors that I think we should always just take into consideration. And then, finding out what is the government actually doing? And instead of us complaining, let's see what solutions are also there, but possibly finding out that funding isn't really what we need. So how can we self-fund? How do we utilize our network that we operate in order for us to help our network and to also get the most value from the network? And then because entrepreneurship is so stressful, and being a young person in South Africa, and I think in the world is so stressful, we tend to lean on certain substances that Dr. Bonolo was just touching on. So there is help out there. I mean, speaking to other entrepreneurships, organizations that she's mentioned, such as Sanka, which are quite important. So doing our research there, and actually just knowing that we're not alone. We're all pretty stressed out, guys, about quite a lot, but we can lean on each other. We can reach out, and we can definitely find organizations that can help. I don't know if Mr. Somgyala is still there for any closing remarks. Oh, he is. Mr. Somgyala, do you have any closing remarks on your side?
Yeah, thanks a lot. I've made a comment which I believe is my closing remark. I'm not going to say much except that we need to just obsess with finding solutions. A lot in the country, because of where we are economically, high unemployment, we tend to spend a lot of time discussing problems. And rarely do we find time looking for solutions. And this platform for me is one example where the question is, what is it that we need to do? And a lot has been said about government in the comments. The reality is that there are people who are in positions because there was no other alternative for them. They just needed to earn a living. They are in business because they couldn't find a job. Wherever you are and whatever the circumstance, the challenge for each one of us, especially young people, is how do I get out of this uncomfortable position I find myself? How do I use what I have to reach out? Because young people are our leaders. They're not leaders of tomorrow. I think somebody made that comment. And there's a lot that as old people we're learning and continue to learn from young people. Because the world has changed. I mean, 50 years ago, the environment is different now. So we need to obsess with that, finding solutions, and accept the reality that we will go to CIFA and we will be rejected. Not because our product or our businesses are a failure, sometimes because they don't understand where we are and what we seek to do. And that's the reality of life. A message here is you just don't give up because of that. You pursue. You don't have resources, most of people don't. And a good example has been given here by Doc and even Sam, that don't limit the resources at your disposal. Resources in terms of finance, resources in terms of knowledge, skills, networks, markets. Don't limit them only to these financial institutions, whether it's a DFI, whether it's a commercial bank. Sometimes the solution is just here inside the family, you know, the brother, the cousin, the friend, etc. One of our biggest weaknesses as Black people is that we don't collaborate more as we should. That also includes, you know, just buying from our own deliberately. So these are the things that require all of us, that mindset shift, to really understand that nobody somewhere is just waiting to help us. It's up to us to move from where we are and understand that life is not easy and success is about those disappointments and, you know, falling down, picking yourself up. I'm very excited about this opportunity and just want to thank Doc and, you know, the panelists and everybody. And I do believe that there will be young people in this room who will take some of the lessons, pursue them, and tomorrow will be different. And it will be a positive tomorrow. Thank you.
Can you leave your email on the chat so that if they want somebody to just give them an idea on this or that? You know, I know you are a very busy man, but you know, is it possible?
Yeah, thanks. It's possible, but as you say, I'm more in the rural farming environment, so they mustn't be disappointed. I will respond. I will also leave myself, and please use WhatsApp.
Okay.
Sorry, Doc, can I just have a suggestion here. I'm gonna send out an email, a thank you email to everyone here, so that everyone who's a part of this conversation has access to each other's email addresses. Does that make sense? Rather than having everyone list their email addresses, and then we get lost in translation and all that. So we'll be able to further correspond if that's what we seek to do via that email.
Okay. This one. All right. I'm not sure what has happened to Ms. Desmond, but anyway, guys, we are at the end of the conversation. It's always a problem when you have sessions like this because there's so much to discuss and there's always so little time. So I just want to thank everybody who has given time to attend this session. You know, you could have done many other interesting things, but you chose to be here. So thank you to every one of the panelists and also to everybody who has joined us via the various social media platforms. Ms. Babalwe, please come and close this thing. You can't just disappear like that.
I was hoping to sneak away.
Yeah.
I think I would like to say thank you so much, Dr. Fundi Lenyati. You know, when I saw that post, I was like, this is really, really interesting. And I'd really, really love to form part of this. So firstly, I think thank you for the platform and for bringing us all together. One thing that was stressed quite a bit is that we need to come together, we need to come together, we need to come together. So in as much as 80% of the people that are here are youth, we also had the older generation here who were quite instrumental in sort of guiding us and maybe taking away the misconceptions. I know that I learned quite a bit from them as well, but I think there's so many key points that we need to take away. And I know I'm probably giving your team, Yonela, I'm sorry, and the doctor quite a bit of homework, but I have been making notes throughout. And maybe also if everyone here, if they were making notes, if we could just share those and compile it into a document, because in as much as we were bringing up concerns, we were bringing up quite a bit of things that we are quite anguished about. But I think it's also important that, I mean, great strategies were shared and solutions. It's quite important that we share those and we come up with solutions. I know that one of the things that was raised was communication. It's a pity that Mr. Don Mashele and Mrs. Sonkia are gone, but I run a PR company. So if you need any communications, but let's also see in our different businesses that we run or in our different organizations that we're a part of, what kind of solutions can we come up with and possibly propose them. One thing that was also interesting that was brought up was the consortium. So the different skill sets and the different solutions that we bring to the table, can we actually put those forward and see how we can help each other as young people? But also, I don't know about everyone else, but Dr. Fundi, I think this is a great platform, and I think it shouldn't be limited to June. I think more of this needs to be done, but then not only that, but we actually follow up and say, the requirements that we brought forward and all the things that we had suggested, how can we actually, what has been done? Let's put timelines. So it's a big responsibility on your side.
Can we leave that responsibility to a handful of you? The platform is available. If you want, if you guys want to have another webinar in a month's time or in 3 months' time, I'll make it available to you as the young people so that you can be able to have your sessions. So that's the least I can do. But also, I mean, you guys, you know, I run a business. I can't necessarily give business to all of you, but there's a few of you that I saw that, oh, my company can benefit from here or there, you know? So you guys sometimes approach people like us and say, you are in the healthcare space, this is what you do. All right, can I do this? You know, and then I give you a try. And if I'm happy, you know, then you've got a business, you know? So all I'm trying to say is, even amongst yourselves, you know, sometimes you start small assignment, you excel there, and then it goes to something bigger, all right? So funding is not always the thing that makes you start a business. Sometimes whilst you are working elsewhere, you have an idea, you know, like Yonela, you know, and then by the time she finishes wherever, she's already got a client base. So the point I'm trying to say is, you guys start small where you can, you know, and then do your thing. And don't be shy to say, this is what I do. And please give me a try. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone. I think we are done with our session. I hope everyone has a great and safe Saturday evening. And let's stay indoors and let's adhere to COVID regulations. Thank you so much, Doc. Thank you for everyone who joined in as well.
Thank you. Much appreciated.